Hello students, today we will be discussing the topic Religion as a factor of voting behavior in India. The objective behind today's discussion is to answer two questions. Does religion influence voting behavior? Secondly, are religious communities vote banks in India? We will try to answer these two questions in the light of the 2014 and 2019 Lok Sabha elections. But before we move on to answer these two important questions, let us first try to understand the relationship between voting behavior and elections. Elections are the basic means of political participation and political socialization. In fact, elections constitute the basis of representative democracy. Through universal adult suffrage, individuals express their will towards different political parties and candidates. Voting offers an occasion for the electorate to perform this responsible job of choosing their representatives. In fact, voting behavior constitutes two important questions. One, why people vote, and secondly, what are the considerations that play an important role in deciding voters' mindset. In fact, it is often said that numerous determinants play a very important role in determining the voting behavior. Most important are gender, caste, class, language, religion, political issues, election campaigns, party manifestos, credibility of the political leaders. All of these impact democratic decision making on the part of voters. These elements make up the electoral behavior of the candidates. It makes them capable that to whom and in what direction they should cast a ballot. This electoral decision making process is known as voting behavior. Let us try to understand among the different determinants whether religion plays an important role in voting determinant or not. Religion is definitely an important determinant of voting behavior. And why? Different political scientists and sociologists have discussed the interaction between religion and politics. Throughout the world, religion and politics are two imperatives of human society. Religion addresses and conditions man's societal and spiritual balance. Politics shapes the act of religion and figures out who gets what, when and how in any given political setting. Different political parties use religion for getting political support. Let us try to understand the impact of religion on the voter's mindset in a country like India. In a multicultural country like India, religion does influence the totality of the ways of life in which adherents of different religions impact their socio-cultural behavior, economic impressions, political ethos, and institutions. In a democratic country like India, where religious bonds are extremely strong, the role of religious identity cannot be ignored in the voting behavior of the people. Even within religious groups, there are divisions based on caste and subcaste, sects, all of which have their own role in decision making and building pressure groups to influence political scenario of the different constituencies. Therefore, all the political parties take note of the pressure groups fighting elections. Now let us try to understand the impact of secularism on elections. The establishment of a secular state in India by guaranteeing right of freedom of religion to everyone, treating every religion equal and non-recognition of a particular religion by the state has not been successful in preventing the role of religion as a determinant of voting behavior in general and voting behavior among particular communities. The existence of such political parties and new political groups as stand linked with particular religion. For example, we can say about the Muslim League, the Akali Dal, Hindu Mahasabha, Shiv Sena, have been one of the various reasons behind the continued role of religion as a determinant of voting behavior. Religious pluralism of the Indian society is a major feature of the environment of Indian politics, and it greatly influences the struggle of power and the different political parties contesting elections. The selections of candidates is done with an eye upon the presence of a religious majority in a particular constituency. The candidates do not hesitate to seek votes by playing the religious card with co-religious voters and the secular card with members of other religious communities. Use of religious places for political ends is also a standard practice, particularly during elections. The religionization of socio-political issues is again resorted to by different political parties. The voters very often vote on religious considerations. This religionization of socio-political issues is primarily because religion is a source of identity as well as a factor of bonding in the lives of people, mainly in rural areas. However, students, we should also note that during the post-independence period, communally divisive vote bank politics and pampering of minorities have often been undertaken by political parties. This brand of politics encourages voters to vote on the basis of narrow communal considerations and often against their better judgment. Now, this has been followed by political parties across the years. For instance, we can speak about the Congress having its vote bank among the Muslims, other minorities, and the BJP among the Hindus, trying to create vote bank consolidation. For example, if you look into the 1975 emergency period and whether vote bank politics was resorted to. Yes, students. The Muslims were hostile to the emergency in 1975, though the Muslim League supported the emergency. In elections 1977, the Muslims in North India did not support the Congress government. So Indira Gandhi tried to lure them back so that without their support, Congress could not have won in 1980. And as constitutional expert Noorani says, with their support, it would probably have won the 1977 elections. In 1984 elections, she used the minority's support, while she used the majority's support in order to win over elections on the issue of national security. In fact, after her assassination, her son Rajiv Gandhi also followed her style of politics. Although the Congress attention to minorities led to the defeat of the BJP in the 1984 Lok Sabha elections, it did help the Sangh Parivar in creating a Hindu vote bank in their favor and polarizing the society. Eventually, the Ayodhya movement consolidated Hindu majority vote bank and the BJP increased their seats in parliament from 2 in 1984 to 182 in 1999. Let us try to understand this vote bank politics and whether it exists now. We'll try to understand this issue on the basis of the 2014 and 2019 Lok Sabha elections. Now, for convenience of understanding, I have divided the entire issue into two parts: nature of Hindu electoral politics and nature of Muslim electoral politics. Let us first start with nature of Hindu electoral politics. As per the 2011 census data, Hindus constitute 79.80% of the total population. However, it is to be noted that Hindus are not a homogeneous category but are divided along several sects and castes. The 2019 election definitely witnessed consolidation of Hindu votes, and we'll try to find out the reason why. In 2014 elections, 36% of all Hindu voters were found to have supported the BJP, while in 2019 election it increased to 44%. The NDA allies together received 51% votes from the Hindus. Now let us try to understand voting pattern of the different denominations within the Hindus in the 2014 and 2019 elections. If we categorize them into all Hindus, Hindu upper caste, Hindu OBCs, Hindu Dalits and Hindu Adivasis. Let us try to understand first the all Hindu category. All Hindus voted 36% for the BJP in 2014 elections, and this vote percentage increased to 44% in 2019. However, there was a slight marginal increase in all Hindu voting pattern from 2014 to 2019 elections for the NDA allies. Now, let us see how did the Hindu upper caste vote. In the 2014 elections, 47% of the Hindu upper caste voted for the BJP, but this number increased to 52% in 2019 elections. Coming to Hindu OBCs, 34% voted for BJP in 2014 elections, but this number increased to 44% in 2019 elections. For the Hindu Dalits, there has been a 10% increase from 2014 to 2019, that is 24% to 34% respectively. Coming to Hindu Adivasis, the number also increased from 37% in 2014 to 44% in 2019 elections. Thus, we can say that BJP was able to secure huge Hindu support from all communities including Dalits and Adivasis when compared to 2014. This is indicative of consolidation of Hindu votes. But that does not mean that across the different constituencies of the country, Hindus voted uniformly. Let us try to understand how Hindus voted in the northern and southern parts of the country. Among Hindus, the BJP received some of the highest vote shares in the northern part, that is 68% of the total votes, and in central India, the BJP received 65% of Hindu votes, which included India's capital Delhi and its most populous state, Uttar Pradesh. In South, significant share of Hindu voters, 20%, say that they supported the Indian National Congress, which has led the country for most of the years since its independence. Therefore, we find that the mindset of the Hindu voters in North and South India are not the same. Regional parties including Telangana Rashtra Samiti, YSR Congress Party also received significant votes from the Hindus in southern India. Now, this differences in voting pattern of southern Hindus and those who live in north and central regions are part of the broader regional differences among Hindus in India. For example, Hindu nationalist sentiments appear to have a smaller foothold in South India. Nationally, 64% of Hindus believe that being Hindu is very important to be a truly Indian citizen. But while this share is too high in central India, around 83%, this identity or this mindset of being a Hindu is coterminous with being an Indian is not similar in South India, where you will find just 42% believe in this identity. Views of the BJP also differs along other religious lines in India also. Among the minority communities, Jains appear to be the only group who strongly embrace BJP. 70% of the Jains are said to feel that they are closest to the BJP regardless for whom they voted for in the 2014 elections. Meanwhile, other religious groups have shown less support for the ruling party. Fewer than a third of Buddhists, say 29% of Buddhists, Muslims 19%, Sikhs 19%, Christians 10% said that they voted for BJP in the 2019 elections. Therefore, one thing that is to be noted is that among other communities, say Muslims, Christians and Sikhs, there has been a decline in vote share. Now, let us come to the voting pattern of other communities. If the Hindus are on the side of the BJP, the minority religious communities are clearly on the other side. While the Muslim vote percentage has remained the same, Christian votes have increased, but Sikh votes have declined considerably. This is further evident from the fact that BJP has not been able to fare very well in the minority dominated states of Goa, Punjab and Kerala. Polarization is most acute in states where you have a considerable high number of Muslim population like West Bengal, Bihar, Assam, UP. In these states, BJP has received a higher proportion of votes than what it has received in 2014 elections among Hindus. Now, what we find is that why do the religious minorities vote in this manner? Religious minorities have opted for parties other than BJP or INC. This has also been the trend in 2019 elections. So, the elections were not between the religious voters voting for BJP or INC, but other regional parties also got a fair share from other minority communities. For example, 14% of the Buddhists say that they have voted for the BSP, that is the Bahujan Samaj Party. In fact, it is said that the 16% of the Sikhs have voted for Shiromani Akali Dal in 2019. Now, these are regional parties defending regional interests. Now, let us come to Muslim electoral politics. Muslims constitute around 20% of the total population as per the 2011 census. Now, if you look into constituency wise, they constitute 20% of the population in 80 of India's 543 Lok Sabha constituencies. In 2019, Hindu candidates from across parties won in 58 of these 80 seats. The Muslim community is geographically dispersed across the country and is definitely not a monolithic group. They have never voted with a singular national Muslim aspiration, an important point to be noted. The BJP, which is perceived to be an anti-Muslim party, won 36 of the 80 Lok Sabha seats in which Muslims form 20% of the population. The electoral results are definitely interesting. Unlike other religious groups, Muslim electoral participation at the all India level has not increased significantly since the 2014 Lok Sabha elections. Muslims, as I already said, are not a homogeneous category. The social and cultural factors such as class, caste, region and gender do also determine Muslim political choices in different contexts. In this sense, we should also note that the multifaceted political identity of Muslim voters and their spatial location emerge as determining factors in Muslim electoral participation. Another pertinent point to note is that Muslim voting pattern in post-2014 Vidhan Sabha elections as well as in the 2019 Lok Sabha elections suggests that Muslim communities did not show any inclination to become a vote bank in India. In fact, political heterogeneity remains one of the determining aspects of their electoral behavior. Muslims voted for all parties, including the BJP, in these elections. Although the non-BJP parties and regional coalitions remained the first choice of Muslim voters at the all India level, the vote share of the BJP among Muslims in a few key states such as Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh and Gujarat have increased significantly. So, it is very difficult to say how and why they are voting for BJP or not voting for BJP, but one thing is certain, there is nothing to indicate that the Muslims have boycotted the BJP. Definitely, their inclination towards anti-BJP parties are definitely high, but not nil. CSDS Lokniti post-poll survey 2019 showed that Congress received 33% Muslim vote, while around 8% of the Muslims voted for the BJP. In the book Siyasi Muslims, A Story of Political Islams in India, authored by Hilal Ahmed, has interestingly analyzed how percentage of Muslims voting for BJP candidates goes up sharply when the main political context is a bipolar one, with only two political parties contesting. If the Muslims were indeed a vote bank consolidated against the BJP, a bipolar contest would definitely have seen fewer Muslims voting for BJP, but this is not the case. The Muslim voters, many argue, is motivated by constituency level politics, not the narrative of fear created by anti-Muslim rhetoric and incidents. Like the Hindus, Muslim identity on the ground is also highly fragmented, varying with religious denomination, region, language, class. While the past few elections has seen increased consolidation of Hindu votes under the BJP, Muslim votes have remained split between the Congress and other regional parties. In states where the Congress is in direct competition with the BJP, it gets the majority of the Muslim votes. In other states where there are strong regional parties like the UP, Bihar, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal, Assam, Delhi, the overall Muslim support for the Congress has significantly dropped and moved to the strongest regional player. Now let us see how Muslims have voted in the various Vidhan Sabha elections held after 2014. An interesting picture would emerge. For example, in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, PDP received 34% of Muslim votes, NC 30% and INC 17%. In Bihar, the Grand Alliance received 75% while NDA received a meager 6%. In Uttar Pradesh, SP Congress combined received 65%, BSP received 19% of Muslim votes. In Assam, Indian National Congress received 42% while AIUDF received 36% of Muslim votes. Coming to Gujarat, INC received 46% and BJP 26% of Muslim votes. In Maharashtra, Indian National Congress received 53% while the Nationalist Congress Party 16% and the BJP 12% of Muslim votes. In Karnataka, INC received a very high share of Muslim votes with 68%, BJP 16% and JDS 13%. West Bengal again, TMC received 51% of Muslim votes while the Left Front received 24% and the INC just 14% of Muslim votes. Telangana, Indian National Congress received 34% Muslim votes, Telangana Rashtra Samiti 33% while AIMIM 22%. Kerala, UDF 57% while LDF received 34% Muslim votes. Does it really impact Muslim representation in parliament? Let us come to this question. Since independence, Indian Muslims have largely backed secular formations like the Congress, SP, BSP, Trinamool Congress and RJD. But while these parties are talking about protecting Muslim interests, they have been less forthcoming in giving Muslims proportional representation in case of candidates being selected from the Muslim community. Muslim representation in parliament between 1952 to 1977, when the Congress dominated the Lok Sabha, lingered just between 2% and 7%. The highest it touched was 10% in the year 1980, but it was still less than the percentage of Muslims in the overall population. Rajiv Gandhi's landslide win in 1984 had only 46 Muslim MPs. The overall representation of Muslims in the Lok Sabha is a dismal picture. While in 1952 the Lok Sabha had just 21 MPs, in 2014 it is just 23. In between, the number lingered between 24 and 30. We find underrepresentation of Muslims in the parliament. Now coming to the choice of the Muslim voters. There are several myths about the voting behavior of Indian Muslims, about how clerics influence their choice and how they are more concerned about religious issues while voting. However, various studies indicate that though Muslims refer to the ulema's opinion in matters of religion, their participation in political discourse is definitely not welcome. A 2015 CSDS study says that 43% of the Muslims disapprove of religious leaders supporting political parties. What is encouraging though is that the low representation in parliament and state legislative assemblies and the numerical disadvantage have not bothered Muslim voters, who often outnumbered their Hindu counterparts in participation in the electoral process. This political engagement is crucial for the survival and strengthening of Indian democracy. How do we conclude our discussion based on the voting patterns of the Hindus, Muslims and the other communities? Religion definitely dominates Indian elections and does influence electoral behavior. To some extent, vote banks have continued to remain confined to various religious groups. The Hindu parties have used anti-minority mobilization, traditional religious ceremonies and polarizing around Hindu identity and holy places. Especially since the mid-1980s, the dominant political discourse increasingly became consistent with communal symbols, and political parties had transformed it into an electoral capital. Many candidates have used communal strategies and tactics, and the communal voting patterns based on caste and religion have been utilized in certain cases. Finally, although the contest and conflict between Hindus and Muslims have not been as stark as in the pre-independence period, but most parties have used and continue to use religion for political and electoral gains. Thank you. That's all for today.